So let's switch to this view for now. So I've got a lot of vampires here, very thematically appropriate, because we're going to explore painting black in different ways. But do I have a pen? I'm supposed to have a pen over here. One thing about testing is you've got to keep track of your test subjects. So we will have to make notes on them. Guessing green users did not have a rainy day. I don't think it's the season there. My mother-in-law moved, so I don't always keep up with the weather anymore. Alright, I'm gonna stick these guys down with tape because why not? Oh, maybe I'll turn the light on so you can see better too. See, before the rainy day, hey Rogier, we ran around doing boring grown-up errands, which we're not great at, so I'm proud of us for doing that. We dropped things off at Goodwill. We sold some stuff at the used bookstore that also sells games and other nerdy things. What did we see that they're selling now? So they've got like the Funko Pop guys. They've had those for a while. They've got Lego and video games. But I swear there was something I'm like, they're selling this now? I don't remember what it was. Puzzles and board games they've had for a while. I'm completely zoning on what the new thing was. They're very proactive in, you know, moving things around and changing up the store and how much storage gets used for which things and stuff like that. So they keep up with changing trends in a sense. I mean, they're still selling lots of DVDs and stuff. They don't sell videotapes anymore, I don't think. They sell records and comics. What did I get? I got the Book of Gold, Bob Ross. So we'll just go to a random page and see the wisdom that Bob Ross has for artists. Put light against light, you have nothing. Put dark against dark, you have nothing. It's the contrast of light and dark that gives the other one meaning. Even Bob Ross wants you to paint contrast. Even Bob Ross knows that is where many people are going wrong. Hey, Poke Me Amber. These things are annoying. So I'm not showing the Elowen figures because the Post and Pouch has sold out. But you can still get the Mini of the Month Oktoberfest Fraulein, who is very cool, free with your order of minimum purchase. And I think you get a Monsylvanian too, which those guys are super fun. And I'm not just making that up. I painted like all of them but one or two, so. I know Michael painted one, but the other Michael. But I feel like Anne might have painted one too. I mean the original ones. Anne could well have painted more of them on her show. She paints a lot. I don't know for sure. Wow, Kitty just went totally to sleep, didn't she? So much for the catnip. Maybe it was too much catnip. This is her sleepy time of day, though. This is when Chaos Kitty takes a little nap, and we all breathe a sigh of relief. This is momentarily a break from the chaos. All right. Apologies for not having done that before the show, but they were still drying. Am I using alien tape? I'm using Gorilla Tape. I have also on occasion used, I think it's called mounting tape from Scotch. I don't think I have one handy, but it's like a foam core that's sticky on both sides. But that one's white and this one's clear, so it's kind of nice that it's not visually distracting at all. With the white one, when you get to the end of the mini, then it's like this big bright white thing at the bottom that can be a little distracting. Not that that's a big deal. Oh, and I found my scary Halloween thing from Miniature Painters. When I was putting away some paints, I just happened to find it. Bah! Brushes, natural hair brushes, can get eaten by moths. And this is an example of a brush I had that happened to. So, the ultimate horror for Miniature Painters. The blue tack would probably work. I was thinking of doing it when the base is flat. I find it easier just to go with the tape. If the base has any sort of texture or space under it or whatever, then I like to use the blue tack. It comes off easier. It is blue, but it also occurred to me, and I was going to do it on the base, but I don't think that's the best place. We're going to do it on their fronts, that we need to mark who is who. So this guy will be neutral gray. This guy will be blue gray. This guy will be dark elf. This guy will be dusky skin. What's up, Katie? You just need to tell us about how you're changing around to be in a different circle? Okay. And this will be warm gray. So, the first rule of experiments is make sure you keep track of what you're doing to who or what, so that you can compare after. And I almost forgot that part. Now, where did my black paint go? So I'm going to use solid black just because I feel like it. It does not really make a significant difference whether you use solid dragon or pure black. Pure black and I just don't seem to get along. It has ever been thus. Perhaps 2.0, pure black and I will reconcile our differences. I'm going to put just a little bit of water in there. I'm just using a blister pack. Since I have to paint all of them black, it's a bit black. But I'm just going to do the back of the cloak. Oops, I got all quiet there. Did the moth have expensive taste with your brushes? No, luckily this was a very crummy brush that I just put away in a box. So I had a bin of extra miniature supplies that when we were doing some renovations I put away. And sometime later when I dug the box back out, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I did not even know that insects would go for brushes. Like I thought it was specific to wool for some reason, I guess. But apparently not. So the ones that I use frequently, they're kind of out and about in the house. And even the ones that I have stored upstairs in a drawer that are still in their packages and stuff, that is the first and only time so far, knocking on wood, I don't have any wood. Yes, I do. I'm going to do it because I have some expensive brushes that I very much wish the moths not to show any interest in. So I think it was the combination of being just kind of loose and unattended for some time in a box that led to the problem. Did I get that little bit? Nope. So yeah, that was eye-opening when that happened. But I had happened to find it near Halloween last year, I think, or the year before, so I think of that as my Halloween scare brush. So yeah, what else did we do? We went to the hardware store. Very exciting stuff. Went to the pharmacy and got our COVID and flu vaccines. So then we spent yesterday just kind of moping around a little bit. But that's okay. Better one day of moping around a little bit than getting the flu. I thought we did something else too, but I guess we just went out to dinner, which doesn't really count as adulting. Did I pick these minis up at ReaperCon this year? No, I ordered these a couple of weeks ago when I had the idea of doing this instead of my normal monochromatic miniature for my Halloween, my closest to Halloween episode. So it's monochromatic, but in kind of a different way than I have done in the past, instead of painting a whole miniature. I had painted, I painted one of these already, not last Halloween, but the Halloween before. When I think Ron had just sent me one or two of them. And I thought he was pretty cool and very suited to like a black and white movie look. So we do kind of have an example of plain gray. I'm pretty sure I just used neutral grays on that. But just in case, I'm going to do... And also, so these guys will probably stick together somewhere that I'll have. You know, occasionally I do a class on painting the color black and the color white. I mean, I do one about painting in monochrome too, but the one about painting black and painting white, they will make a good, you know, this set will make a good example for how the colors that you choose to highlight with can make a difference in the way your black appears and how you can work that into your color scheme and stuff. So if I had a miniature that was, you know, had a lot of warm parts, if I painted this in color and he had a lot of warm colors in the armor, say, the leather armor, or, you know, I'd use some reds and other typical vampire colors, then doing the cloak with the cool blue highlights would be very visually effective. Where conversely, if I had a miniature where I'd already used a lot of blue and purple and cool colors, I could get some additional contrast by using the warm grays. Let's look at some of our paint colors. A little tub. So first of all, for the neutral grays, I have cloudy gray, rainy gray, and misty gray. There are a few others as well. There's definitely a darker one that I don't have here. The stormy gray, I think, that I saw. And I might not go up all the way misty gray. It certainly is possible to paint black all the way up to white when I do like paint leather. I like to use the blue set and do that, but it is a pain in the butt. And these are going to be a little bit quick and dirty. Because the point is to get an idea for the character nature of each of the paint selections more than have perfect paint. Is that the darkest one? Yes, these two are very similar, aren't they? Yeah, I probably should have grabbed the Stormy. And I couldn't find, for the warm grays, I like the stone triad, and I could not find my shadowed stone. I'm very curious to know what the heck I did with that. My paints don't have that many places to hide. I found 2 mountain stone, but then no shadowed stone. It's like weird, but okay. So the key to making it, you know, super smooth and going to the extremes, even for me anyway, is to have a decent number of transitions. So I'm doing fewer transitions. Which means that I will, you know, there may be more appearance of lines and stuff. But because he's got the fairly sharp type of folds, it tends to be less of a problem. Those big rolling folds, I don't think I have anything on my desk like that. Or doing a fade like on something straight, you know, a color transition on something straight from, you know, from there to there. That tends to, people's eyes are going to notice the transitions more, where on these sharper folds, they're not. So this is my neutral gray guy. He's got to dry just a little more. Black and black and black and black. So we're starting with neutral black. Black highlighted with neutral grays. The you could use stormy. I didn't bring stormy. But cloudy, rainy, and I don't think we'll go up as high as misty gray, but it is possible to do. I want to keep this fairly black, not be super shiny black. So there's just a little bit of wetness in the crevices. So I'm going to try and work around that and get painting. So like this thing, we can do a little bit of a shift on that. And having some actual black is useful too. I find that our eyes spot the transitions. I think you can see them there. I find that we spot them easier on using the neutral gray. So the other reason I like to use some of the other options that I'm showing you is that it's easier to paint. You can also thin down the paint a little and use very gentle pressure when you're applying it to help minimize the appearance of transition lines. So yeah, I don't know what it is about neutral grays that I find that they're harder to paint in some ways than the kind of color combos we're gonna look at in a bit. So he's kind of our control guy. I got the paint off, but then I put lint on. Now, lint is a problem with black that I cannot solve for you. That's the tough part about black, is then you go to photograph these guys and they're just like, every piece of lint in your house is going to show up and make itself known. I'm going to try my other brush, I think. but we'll see. I might switch back. So now I'm looking for those upward facing folds. Definitely helpful to have not too much paint on the brush like I just did. This black is just a little shiny, which makes it darker and also makes it fairly easy for me to figure out where to put highlights. So now I'm going crosswise because I'm trying to break up that line. With a straight stroke, the line is very defined along the edges. So it is sometimes helpful to go sideways to it and you break it up a little. I don't know if I'm in love with this brush either. I'm very princessy about my brushes today, I guess. So true neutrals like this, they're just kind of there. They're not really contribute anything to your color scheme, like the warm, cool contrast. So on the positive side, if you've got a lot going on your figure, they're not gonna add, visual chaos, and it's gonna be just a little more soothing to the eye if you've already got a ton of stuff happening color-wise on your figure. But they're sort of dull. They don't really entertain the eye, I guess, is how I would put it. They just kind of, they're flat. They're there. So they're also good to use when you've got maybe some parts you don't want people looking at that much. Maybe there's an element of the sculpt that isn't great, or a part you didn't prep as well as you would have liked to, or just you're telling a story and, like if I'm telling a story, the inside of this cape is not a vital part of the character of this story. I would have to work pretty hard to find some reason why the inside of the cape would be the interesting part. I'm sure it could be done, but typically speaking, we're interested in faces, we're interested in the action, what the character's doing, what they're thinking, what they're feeling. So we're focusing on that kind of thing. And then that might be a case where you want something flat to not draw attention. towards a part. Be like, don't look over here very much. This is not the interesting part. So now I'm going over with a lighter mix. Not over everything. Just areas that would be receiving more light. Like, I'll do a little bit here. But in there is not receiving a lot of light. Whereas this is receiving a lot of light. This is receiving a lot of light. Up here on the shoulders. Alright, we'll go just a little bit lighter in even smaller areas. So with black, when we think about shadows and highlights and midtones, black is your midtone, black is also your shadow. So you're only painting highlights, you're only painting like a third of the surface area. You have to leave enough black for it to appear black. Now let's compare him to this guy. Pope Hamber. I have to be careful when drinking coffee and painting. They go together until they don't. So sounds like there was a brush in the coffee or brush water in the mouth. So you can see actually here the difference with the slightly shinier black, how it looks a bit darker. So I use pure black on this one and I use solid black on this one. All right, who's up next? We got blue, gray. So my favorite triad for doing a blue-black is midnight blue, twilight blue, and then if you really want to do like a patent leather style, go up to white, snow shadow, and then white. So I'm just going to paint about the same as I did for the previous one. So I probably won't use the snow shadow, but I guess we'll see. Poke me over twice the brush in the coffee. Ugh. Well, just a little bit of paint never killed anyone. We don't recommend brush licking around here. Or paint water drinking. But we know it happens. I don't have one of them right now, but I use these travel tea things or bottled water. So my beverage always has to be uncapped, and that helps me not rinse inappropriately. I did shake these before we started, so shake your paint more than you're seeing me do here. But I got them on my vortex mixer. Maybe we go a little bit lighter. Actually, what number is pure black? Let's see. It is 9037. I'm sure I've got pure white kicking around here somewhere too. Alright, let's see what we do with this. Making sure I have the correct. The Empiric Gentleman, blue-gray, yes. That's what I need to do his collar. So see, I just don't think the edge of that is quite as noticeable as the gray was. Now the value could be a bit closer to black, but I think it's just something about it being a color as well. I think I lifted a bit of my paint there. The peril of trying to work fast. So if you're applying wet paint over paint that isn't quite touch dry, sometimes you can lift the paint underneath and end up with a dark spot. And I think I've got that happening over here. I need to just stop messing with that side of his collar and let it cure more. You don't think they make the Twilight Triad? Or pure black? I feel very confident they still make pure black. The Triad is pure black, pure white, and one of those grays I had a minute ago. Rainy gray, I think. pretty confident they still make Twilight Blue as well. It is an excellent triad on its own, as well as a highlight for black or a shadow for white. So almost all of these, I would actually say all of these that I'm showing you, are also things that I would use where I'm starting with the lighter color this time as shadow colors for white as well. So we could do the same experiment with not a vampire. With white. Angel wings or something. Not sure what holiday that would be. I guess if it was angel wings, it could be Christmas. Is there a holiday where we would be painting variations of white? Fourth of July, maybe? Well, I'm glad you're figuring out your paint collection. I know it can be hard to keep track of. Like how I've lost my one color and I'm very sad about it. Not that I haven't had that happen before, because I definitely have had that happen before. I had one I think I misfiled when I still had spinners, and I don't think I found it until I was packing up the spinners and switching over to having shelves. It's like, oh, seriously, this is where this paint has been for like 4 years. Okay. Like I'd bought another copy at this point. And somehow it was somewhere where it blended in just enough. So yeah, even though my painting isn't very clean right now, I feel like it's not as noticeable with the Twilight Blue Triad as it was with the neutral grays. Still, as with the previous version, still trying to think about where is more light falling and applying the lighter applications there. like to kind of get where the cloak flares up on the little folds. I feel like a lot of light would catch there. Okay, so let's compare with this is the blue gray. Let's compare with the neutral gray. So it's still black. It's, you know, the addition of the color, because this is a dull blue. If we look at the samples of these blues, these are not bright blues. They're not in your face bright blues. Now you can do this similar thing with a brighter blue. You just dull it down by mixing some gray with it, or you know, mixing just a little bit into the black. But I would say mix a bit of, you know, a brighter blue and a gray. Let's see what I have as an example of a brighter blue. Like if all I had was something like this, I could take it and mix it with my gray and get something a little more similar to, oops, look at the, so these are the blues on the palette. So you can see how much brighter that is. That's one of the 2.0 colors, Glacier Blue. But I'll mix it with this cloudy gray. So you want a gray that's similar in value. And then it's a different kind of blue. It's a bit of a turquoise. But that would work in a similar way as this color. It's very similar to, in value, to that color. So we've got a dull color there. The kitty is being a goof and stretching. Hello, Goofy Kitty. What's up? And then the dulled down, more turquoisey blue. Are you a goofy kitty? A little bit? Yeah, you are. All right, so those were blue grays. Now, who's next? Warm grays. So I like the Strone Triad for this. This is the one where I couldn't find the shadow color though. So 9085 is the color that I would normally be using, shadowed stone, but I have no idea where it is, so I'm going to use Dungeon Gray. So by warm grays, these are grays that have a little bit of brown in them. If we compare them to these neutral grays, are going to look almost blue because of the contrast between the warm colors. But then if we looked at them against the blue colors, they would look much less cool. I like my bottle swatches, but it is hard to hold a bunch of them at the same time. So to make your own versions of these, if you didn't have them, you could mix a little bit of brown into those neutral gray type colors. But I find these much more natural. Actually, now that I think about it, there is a new Dungeon Gray, so we'll use that. So if I'm not going to use Shadowed Stone, I might as well use a new one. So I'm mixing some intermediary transition colors. I almost grabbed Mountain Stone. I think that would be similar as well. But I'm betting a few of you have the Stone Triad. It's pretty darn useful. I like it for things like animal fur and other natural things that are gray. Very few natural gray things are going to be, you know, look like those neutral grays that we painted as the first version. So I recommend the Stone Triad for multiple things, including stone. I do like it for stone. But this is a nice option if you've got a lot of cool colors elsewhere, or you're going, you know, you're painting something like black fur that's more of a natural color. I do have, yes, I have the right guy. Now the darker warm grays are fairly transparent, so I might need 2 coats of those before I start working up into the lighter colors that have more white in them. But we'll see. Oh, Kitty's getting down. Where you going, Kitty? Well, maybe she's not getting down all the way. Maybe she's going to go inside the little hidey hole. That's funny. She rarely does that. Her sister loves the little hidey hole, but she hardly ever goes in it. But I guess it's hidey hole time. Oh, we can't really see her from there. I think I've got a little missing bit of black. That weird noise is that he's scratching in the hidey hole a little bit. To what purpose, I could not say, but that is a thing that she likes to do. The nap is over, the chaos is back on. I don't know if you can hear all the dogs in my neighborhood going bananas. Apologies if you can. I do not know what has excited them. Nice thing about highlights is that you're painting smaller and smaller areas, so it gets quicker and quicker. I'm not sure Kitty looks completely satisfied with the size of the hidey hole. She's a little bit bigger than her sister. So this lightest color is really just going out small areas. All right, let's see how that compares to our previous ones. We've got neutral grays. So that's, hold on, I can't see. Neutral grays versus warm grays. And I think you'd agree that this looks much more natural, the warm grays. At least I feel like it does. But now we'll get the blue gray in. So there's a warm gray versus a cool blue gray. And it makes quite a difference. Like, they're both black, but it makes quite a difference, and you can see how you could incorporate this into your color schemes. For a raven, this would be suitable. Most animals, I would go with something like this, but for a raven, you probably want some blues and maybe even some greens and stuff. And then the neutral gray is at the end. Mr. Marge Simpson, what do I think about Games Workshop? In what respect? Polly Schmozzle, so excited about this, painting ravens tomorrow, and this is super helpful. Awesome. Yeah, the raven I painted, let me just slide back actually. I will get it. So since they're kind of a shiny black, you can use purples, you can use greens and grays, or blues. I think since I was using some of the newer colors, and I painted this on stream, so it might still be available on demand, because it would be, you know, from mid-September, mid to late September. And I think I was using some of these colors in the, you know, in the 2.0s. So it was stuff like Sharkbite and Storm Chaser. So I was going a little more, you know, colors with a little more hue, a little more vibrant hue for the raven, because with those feathers, it's a slightly different look than a lot of blacks. I'm not sure whether my videos have been caught up on YouTube. So last time I looked, it was some months behind. So I don't know that it would be on YouTube. So hopefully it is still on here on Twitch. I don't know. Reaper Miniatures, are you still there? Love the Yoling Vampire. Yeah, he does make me think of that. Do you know if my videos have been uploaded to YouTube from the past few months? Polly Schmozzle was wondering about the one where I was painting the Elowin's potion pack figures, including the Raven, which would have been from mid or late September. All right, what kind of black do we have next? We have Dark Elf. So this is a purpley. Black. These are purpley grays. They're grays with some purple in them. So we compare those. I know there will likely be a gap, but I'll redo the playlist this week. So the videos that weren't uploaded for a while, those are just lost or something? Let's see, you look at the neutral grays. So you can see the difference between the purpley grays and the neutral grays. And I like these for, I don't know, I kind of think of it as a classy gray, like if I'm doing noble clothes or something like that. There are other color schemes that it would fit in. You know, when you have a color scheme like orange, green, purple, this can count as the purple. You don't have to have the most vivid, basic version of those colors for those color schemes to apply to the paints that you're picking. Running out of places to put all my grays. Alright, so he is Mr. Dark Elf. Sounds like someone's using a wood chipper now. But maybe Twitch is sparing you from having to hear that kind of noise. Or OBS. I know lots of software can filter out annoying repetitive noises. Ah. I think I'm gonna need one in between those two. Well, just grab a little of each. Just get a little bit of that lightest color. Oops. Alrighty, the attack of the lint on the black has begun. Or I did miss a few spots on this guy. Let's see. Nope, that was lint. That was a missed spot. That was lint. I'm telling you, it's the worst part of painting black. Is how it just attracts all the lint in your house. And there is a lot of lint in my house. Shockingly, the Dark Elf Triad is also good for painting dark elves. Who would have imagined? But I do like it for a nice gray. Of course, it's fair to say that I like purpley anything. Purple is like a magic ingredient for painting. And perhaps life. Wow, I really hope that you are not hearing all that grinding. It is very loud and grindy. I don't know why we only got one kitty today. We got the kitty that usually doesn't care about the catnip. The kitty that possibly has a catnip problem did not show up. So I haven't done this kind of experiment, comparison, whatever you want to call it, for a little while. It used to be, I done several of these kinds of things. We did some comparison of different colored washes and some different dry brushes and some other stuff like that. But I definitely recommend, don't be afraid to do some experiments with your own materials. Different ways of painting, different colors, all kinds of stuff. It's really interesting to see, and it can help you find kind of shortcuts or things that you don't want to do. Sometimes an experiment finds the result you don't want, and that's useful too, because now you know something not to do. You wouldn't have to do this with expensive figures. You could do it with like army men or something. If you've got a 3D printer, that's another way to get a whole bunch of the same guy. I think I was at the last little dabs section. The proceedings. And that's the Dark Elf Triad. So let's compare with the other cool one. It's not as cool. Purple has some red in it, so it's not as cool as just blue on its own. But depending on the context, it can still read as a cooler color. Then we've got Theirs Against the Neutral Gray. And the Warm Gray. So this one can kind of be a little warm or a little cool depending on the context, and that's what's nice about purple. So this last one is going to be Dusky. Dusky is canceled. So these are paints you cannot buy, but that I imagine a lot of you already have. So they're called Dusky Skin. I mean, you can buy them if you're willing to buy like 10 or 12. I think Reaper will do custom batches. So we'll just compare them with the Dark Elf. So where I said I like Dark Elf kind of for classy black, the Dusky is something I like more for, rougher hewn characters. So it's also a little bit purpley. It's a little bit more of a red purple, and this is a little bit more of a blue purple. Yes, Katie, how may I help you? I can't play with you right now. Sorry, bud. What's Kevin? That did not work. What blue did I use for the blue gray? I used the Twilight Blue Triad. So Snow Shadow, Twilight Blue, and Midnight Blue. But for a Raven, I think you could go even bluer. Bud, what's up? She found her favorite piece of plastic on the floor, so maybe that will distract her for a minute. I definitely want her distracted from trying to climb up my legs. That will make me make some painting mistakes. Big painting mistakes. So if you love this, you can tell Reaper what wonderful colors these are and that they should bring them back in 2.0. Dusky Skin is a great favorite with Michael Proctor. Mistakes were made. Mistakes that we will fix later. Let's see, just trying to get all the spots, which you would imagine that I would know pretty well by now. That's the upside of painting the same image for multiple times, I guess, as you figure stuff out about it and how to paint it. But I am a forgetful person, so I'm not going to deny the possibility of me messing it up. there. Let's see. So for anyone who came in a little bit later, I'm doing a comparison of using different colors to highlight black. So what it looks like to use a warm gray versus a cool blue gray. Now I'm using a very desaturated reddish purple. We've got five vampire capes in total, each with a different version of black. And also for people who came in later, a key thing to remember when painting black is that we talk about shadows, midtones, and lights, or highlights. With black, the color black is both the shadow and the midtone. So you're only painting about 30% of the miniature. You're not applying paint over as much surface area as you would if you were painting, say, a medium blue color. So to put it another way, you have to leave a lot of the surface area actually black for it to read as black instead of, dark gray or bluey gray or these other colors that I've been using. I also chose to use solid black, which is a little bit, has just a little bit of a sheen to it compared to pure black, which makes it visually appear as a darker black to kind of maximize the black side of what I was doing. So this is the dusky skin. The Raven video is still up. It was posted 1 month ago. Thank you, Poke Me Amber. So let's compare with the neutral gray. So you see how much warmer it looks compared to the neutral gray. Now we'll compare it to the dark elf. So this is kind of what I would do is noble black and rougher character black sometimes. And what else we got? We've got the warm gray. So these are two warm versions of black. So this one is gray that has a little bit of brown in it, and this is browner, I guess, even. And then we have the coolest one, which is the faded blues. Now, this is fairly rough painting, but we've got a little bit of time left. So what I think I'll do is kind of demonstrate what I would do to make it look less rough. And the main issue is going to be the transition between black and your first step. So that's where you're seeing most of the transition lines. So which one should I pick? I'll do the, is this the dark elf? Yeah, I'll do the dark elf. So what I want to do, and it looks persnickety, well, and if I really want to paint it well, it is persnickety. I'm going to take the dark elf shadow and mix it with my black, so that I've got a starting point before where I started Haybrush for Hire, Big Daddy 72, and a party of 62. Wow. So today I've been painting black with different highlight colors so we can kind of see the difference between cool blues and ultra squid hay and warm grays and purpley colors. And I'm just going to show how I would blend it out a little more. So I did it fairly roughly since I was doing 5 different versions. But now I'm going to demonstrate just how I would make it look a little, it looks a little janky from some angles. So how I would make it less janky, which is basically to have more transition areas. So this was the section, let's see, we can even zoom in a little. So yeah, this was the section of paint that I used for that. And the first thing I would do is actually start with a color before it, this looks like a really dark color, but when you're talking about black, it looks like I'm mixing black and black together, but it's going to make a difference on the miniature. Allow me to soften some of those transitions. So I'm using the Dark Elf Triad here, which I have solid black, Dark Elf Shadow, Dark Elf Skin, and Dark Elf Highlight. So this is a somewhat blue-purple, but very desaturated. So it's like a gray with hints of blue and purple. Thinning down the paint can help, and then I also want to use nice light brush strokes just to try to work over those transition points. And absolutely it is persnickety. And it's a little tricky because you can't really see exactly what effect there was even until it's completely dry. So I'm going to work on this, where there's like a pointy arrow. And I might have to come back with some of the other colors as well. But usually the problem area is that that initial transition between the black and the next color. So if I'm willing to take a little time and have an extra mix for that, that will make a big difference as well. So just going along edges where it doesn't look great. So I find there are kind of three things you can manipulate for blending. You can manipulate the transitions, the number of transitions. If I was painting a display figure, I would probably have 9 to 11 transitions between the black and this lightest color. Well, including black and the lightest color. But I don't thin my paint very much. So the number of transitions is one thing you can manipulate. Thinning the paint, you can get away with fewer transitions if you thin the paint more and apply more coats. And then brush manipulation, brush skills. It's kind of learning the amount of pressure, being able to control where the brush is going, just the tip is going around, you know, the places that I was trying to blend, that kind of thing. You can do a lot with the first two that don't require you to have been painting forever or have amazing brush skills. But working on your brush skills and improving your precision and stuff helps as well. And that's, I used to thin my paint and have a bunch of transitions, and now I just do the transitions because I've improved my brush skills since then. Whereas if you watch Anne, who she has a show on this channel every weekday starting at 11:30 Central, she tends to work with thinning the paint. So she'll do fewer transitions, but thins the paint more than I do. So if you'd like to see an example of that, you could come back tomorrow and watch Anne do her thing. So it's not perfect, but I think it's better than it was. Let's grab one of the other guys and kind of compare, and I think it looks less rough just for that initial extra step in between the black and the first transition color. Yeah, book member, come back tomorrow and check out what Anne's doing. You can talk to her about how she handles the paint to get her very nicely blended transitions. Well, I've run out of guys and colors, so I guess I'm going to have to end a little bit early today. Hopefully you can find us a raid, John. Thank you all for coming. It seemed like people enjoyed getting back to kind of more of the experiment and comparison things, so I will try to keep that in mind and see if I can come up with some other ones. Maybe we'll do a similar thing but with white sometime, because it is a similar idea. And I would actually use the exact same selection of colors that we used on this. Possibly some other ones as well. I guess I'd have to think about that. But I appreciate you all joining me and the questions that you asked. Oh, I'll show the scary thing just one more time before we go on a raid to Quantum Minis. Don't store your brushes in an old, unattended part of your house, or the moths might get them. Halloween. So bye, everyone. Thanks for joining. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next week.